Hello students, the future of India nation. You are welcome in the biology classes by myself, resource person Dr.Agam Dayal. The producer of this program is Vidyarthi Pratibha Utsav Group, Director Mr. Pankaj Tiwari, technical support by Raji Nandini and Bhagiratna. Today we will talk about the second part of animal tissue. In the first part we have already discussed about epithelial tissue, muscle tissue and nervous tissue. Today in the second part we will talk about the connective tissue. Connective tissue, what does it mean? It connects, binds or packages different tissues, different organs. It can be divided on the basis of its functioning in three types. Number one, connective tissue proper. Number two, supportive connective tissue. And number three, fluid connective tissue. First of all, the connective tissue proper. The important thing is connective tissue is that it is made up of three components. The intercellular space or intercellular fluid or matrix is very much developed, and the cells are floating in them like islands in an ocean. So there is much more intercellular space or matrix. There are few cells. Some cells are macrophage, fibroblasts, which synthesize two types of fibers. There may be collagen fibers and there may be elastin fibers. So this is the basis of all connective tissue, and there may be some modifications in the different parts. The first of all, this connective tissue proper has three types. Number one, areolar tissue. Areolar tissue makes the dermis present just below the epidermis of the skin. Second is adipose tissue. Adipose tissue is present just beneath our skin. Mind it, there is a slightly difference. Areolar tissue is present beneath the epidermis of the skin. Skin made up of epidermis and dermis, right? And just below the epidermis and dermis part of the skin, we have adipose tissue, which contains some fat cells and all the other three components. So they make a bad conductor, they protect our body heat, and it is interesting that in girls this subcutaneous fat is thicker than the boys. So the girls feel less cold, and in swimming pool also during swimming there is less possibility of girls to drown. So it is beneficial. And interestingly, in our skin, blood capillaries of network is also different. In the girls, the blood capillary network is much more. So what happens? If there is a cut in the finger in a girl, there will be much more bleeding. If there is a cut in the finger of a boy, there will be less bleeding. And so third is the fibrous tissue. Fibrous tissue, the name itself indicates that fibers are much more developed in it. They are of two types. One, the tendon, and second, ligament. Tendon connects a muscle with a bone. Tendon connects a muscle with a bone, whereas a ligament connects two bones, right? Tendons and ligaments, it is like other connective tissues, but here the fibers are much more developed, and the fiber making fibroblast cells are currently reliant. Then there is supportive connective tissue. Supportive connective tissue which supports, and they are made up of cartilage and bone. Cartilage is softer like our nose, our ear pinna, and in between the vertebrae and at the tip of long bones we have cartilage. Interesting thing is that in cartilage we have no blood supply, no nerve supply, and they are non-porous. So remember it, cartilage contains some cartilage cells dispersed in a matrix. There is less fiber, it has no blood vessel, no nerve supply, and it is non-porous. So actually the nerve supply and blood vessel comes in cartilage from the underlying tissue. The bones have a peculiar structure. They have many cylindrical structures, and each cylindrical structure, suppose this is cylindrical structure. In our bone we have this type of cylindrical structure. There is a cavity in the middle, which is called Haversian canal, and it is surrounded by the bone cells. The bone cells are just having many branches. They are of two types. One, the osteoblast, which synthesize a bone; other, osteoclast, which decompose a bone. So there is a balance in between both types of bone cells. Bone is also very dynamic tissue. There are certain bone formation by osteoblasts, and there is bone decomposition by osteoclasts. Similarly, cartilage is made by chondroblasts. Now, the third type of fluid connective tissue. In fluid connective tissue, the intercellular space or matrix is a fluid. It contains two components. There are two varieties, a blood and lymph. In blood, what happens? Blood has two parts. One, the fluid part, which is called blood plasma. Blood plasma contains some water, some salts, and some proteins. Proteins are of three types: albumin, globulin, and fibrinogen. Then blood contains some formed elements or cells. They are of three types: RBC, WBC, and blood platelets. Mind it that in all other groups, birds, reptiles, amphibians, etc., C means red blood cell. But in mammalian, RBC have lost their nuclei, so it is not a cell. It is more proper to call it RBC is red blood corpuscle. It is not red blood cell. So what happens? There is one very interesting question maybe asked in competitive examinations. You should be very much clear about that. Blood contains two things: liquid portion, plasma, and cells or formed elements. And the cells contain RBC, WBC, and platelets. Platelets are for clotting of blood. RBC carries oxygen and carbon dioxide transport during respiration. Actually, blood directly does not supply the nutrients to the body parts, tissues. What happens actually that blood is transported through blood capillaries. In blood capillaries, we have many pores. Actually, the WBC have a capacity that WBC can just roll it like this and can pass through very small pore. RBC is like poppins shaped, flat ring-like structure. So here what happens? Through these blood capillaries, RBC cannot pass out, but all other remaining part, WBC and the blood plasma, goes out through these pores, and it surrounds all body organs, all body parts. The nutrients are supplied to body parts by this lymph. So lymph is blood minus RBC, right? So you should be very clear about that. Blood does not reach in the surrounding part of the body organs. From the blood capillaries, RBC is retained and rest part passes through it into the surrounding of each organ. It is called lymph. So you should be very clear about this. There are two types of fluid connective tissue. Number one, blood, and second, lymph. There is very slight difference. Blood contains fluid portion, plasma, and formed elements RBC, WBC, and platelets. These blood vessels have many small pores. So through these pores, some blood oozes out into the surrounding around the body parts. But the RBC cannot pass through these pores. So blood minus RBC is called lymph, right? Secondly, we have water, albumin, globulin, and fibrinogen. Fibrinogen is for blood clotting. So if fibrinogen has been removed, the remaining fluid is called blood serum. Sometimes in competitions it is asked that what is the difference between blood plasma and blood serum. Blood plasma contains water, salts, albumin, globulin, and fibrinogen. But in blood serum there is no fibrinogen, right? So this was about connective tissue. Thank you very much.